I'm always just hopeful, and no matter what goes on, you know, it's the father of my kids. I'll always be protective. I always want my kids to just see the best of the best. So I just try to, as hard as it can be sometimes, I do try to ignore it and just try to do whatever's best for the kids.
That's a clip of Kim Kardashian on The Ellen Show talking about the drama between her and Kanye West. The whole thing is a story that reads like something out of a book about bitter exes and love triangles, and just like a train wreck, we can't look away from it even if we really wanted to. Today we're gonna take a deep dive into the Kim, Kanye, and Pete drama. Let's get into it. For those of you who aren't familiar with the story, is there room for me under the rock you live under? I'm small, I promise. Here's a brief overview. Kim Kardashian, the daughter of Robert Kardashian, who was O.J. Simpson's defense lawyer, started dating Kanye West in 2012. They had their first daughter, named North, in 2013, married a year later, and over the next 5 years welcomed 3 more children into the world: Saint, Chicago, and Psalm. Then in January 2021, rumors started to float about a potential divorce, and just a month later, Kim officially filed the papers. More than a year after filing, in March of 2022, she went back to the courts to ask to be legally declared single. Oh, why is that, you ask? Because Kanye refused to sign the papers. Not only that, but his behavior over this period got increasingly more belligerent, especially after Kim started dating Pete Davidson in October of 2021. There's a lot that happened here, so today we'll just talk about the most egregious stuff because if I'm being honest, I too am having a hard time keeping up with everything. God, where do we start? There's definitely some elements of this that in isolation seem pretty romantic. Kanye put forth a number of attempts to show his feelings for Kim and to win her back, like recreating their Italian wedding day at a listening party for Donda, sending her a truck full of roses on Valentine's Day, and quite literally begging for her to come back.
I need you to run right back to me, baby. I need you to run right back to me, baby. I need you to run right back, baby. More specifically, Kimberly.
But with all that, there's still a little bit of manipulation at play. We've seen Kanye attempt to publicly criticize Kim for her parenting style, play up the role of just trying to protect his family, but what's most disturbing is how violent all of this has gotten, and we've mostly just brushed it off. This has ranged from subtle things like Kanye posting and deleting things to social media, like instructing his fans to scream Kimye into Pete's face if they see him, to calling them off and stating that he would handle the situation himself, with a still from the choke scene from the movie Baby Boy, to something far, far darker. In the claymation music video for the song Easy, Kanye puts a bag over Pete's head and kidnaps him, ties him to the back of an ATV, and in some parts of the video, we see Kanye carrying animated Pete's decapitated head. I mean, what the f? And yes, we've seen at least one other artist in the past depict some pretty grim themes in his videos using real people, but to me the difference here is all of the accompanying behavior from Kanye, most of which, when it comes to the relationship between Kim and Pete, is pure schadenfreude, like him mourning the fake death of Pete after the recent breakup with him and Kim. And listen, it can be easy to look at this situation, or Kanye himself, and call him any one of these words, and I'm just here to say that we should stop tossing around these words so casually. Let's take this one, crazy. Chances are you and the people around you are using this word all the time without even noticing it. There's better, more precise language that's missing every time that we use the word crazy. And this is important because the casual usage of these words diminishes very real mental illnesses, one of which being bipolar disorder, which Kanye has spoken very openly about dealing with over the past few years.
I think it's important for us to have conversations about, open conversations about mental health, especially with me being Black, because we never had therapists in the Black community. We never approached like taking medication.
All right, this is normally the part of the video where I transition to talking about books, but I'm sorry to say that I don't have any recommendations. And that's not for lack of trying. I've literally been writing this video for months, but every time that I tried to find relevant reads, nothing was quite able to match the gravity of what we're dealing with today. Instead, I've got a few talking points that I'd like for us to consider as food for thought. The first is both the power and weakness of money, and we'll start with the power. I think it's important for us to consider the question of how this behavior would be interpreted if Kanye wasn't rich and famous and widely beloved. The difference between him and some random Black dude named Andre in Atlanta is billions of dollars, and I can almost guarantee the situation would not have escalated to this level nor gone on this long if the power of money and fame weren't a factor. What's just as interesting is the weakness of money. Kim Kardashian is one of the richest women in the world, and yet she still can't get her ex to stop texting and chasing and harassing her. This cycle of love bombing, manipulation, and aggression is common in domestic abuse, which can be emotional, physical, or both. We live in a world where domestic abuse is commonly glossed over, even in the case of high-profile celebrity couples. And it's not just Kim and Kanye here. In Hulu's series Pam and Tommy, we see the physically abusive side of their relationship reduced down to just a brief text note. We're seeing domestic abuse unfold in public with Kim and Kanye, and the reality is this situation is shining a spotlight on what's happening in many homes across America. Lots of people are facing this from their former partners every single day. Which leads me to my next point, which is how difficult it is for women to come forward with reports of abuse and harassment. Not only do situations like this have the potential to discourage women from coming forward, perhaps they see that Kim can't get reprieve, so they might think that they can't either, but we unfortunately live in a society that continues to blame the victim and question their behavior. We see this happening with questions like, "What were you wearing?" or comments like, "You shouldn't have been drinking," instead of focusing on the abuser and their actions. Society's tendency to blame the victim stems in part from our need to believe that the world is fair and just. When something bad happens to another person, we often believe that they must have done something to deserve such a fate. Social psychologists refer to this tendency as the just world phenomenon. If we think that the world isn't fair, then it becomes so much more apparent that anyone can fall victim to tragedy regardless of how cautious they might be. My last point for consideration is the role that social media plays in all this. The nature of traditional mass media is that something happens and bubbles up to the surface, we pay attention for a small amount of time, and then we move on to whatever is next. We saw a lot of this controversy between Kim, Kanye, and Pete unfold over Instagram. As a result, this probably unintentionally pulled the story out of what would normally live in the tabloids into the daily lives of millions of people, making it quite easy for the public to consume, which again, isn't something that Kim wanted.
You wouldn't believe this, but I actually like to live a really quiet, simple life.
I know you do.
I know you do, yeah. And but yeah, sometimes it just doesn't work out that way for me.
Sometimes it just doesn't.
And it's been difficult, arguably impossible to ignore, since Kanye keeps stoking the fire. And despite his outward harassment of Kim and his direct threats to Pete, this wasn't enough to get him suspended from the platform. Instead, his suspension, which happened to only be 24 hours by the way, came as a result of him making a racist slur, again via Instagram, against Trevor Noah after he talked about the situation on a segment on The Daily Show. I think this, unfortunately, does a really good job at showcasing how misogyny is at play and the lack of a response to protect Kim in the same way. Instagram said that Kanye violated policies on hate speech, bullying, and harassment, which is the same shit that he had been doing for months against Kim and Pete. Look, I know this wasn't the happiest of videos, and I can already see some of you cracking your knuckles and getting ready to let me have it in the comments, or getting ready to hit the invisible to you but very real to me dislike button, but what I'm hoping to get across here is this. We live in a time where we're encouraged to consume the lives of other people for entertainment, something the Kardashian family is no stranger to, admittedly, but there comes a point where some stories become a reflection of larger societal topics and issues that deserve not only observation, but also conversation.